Hello there, and welcome to my new video, which is just a quick tutorial on how to use the new React hooks that are currently in the experimental phase of React.js. So I'll teach you how to install those hooks, and this is going to be a quick tutorial. As you can see here, we've got some comments on the page, and what we're going to be doing is using the useFormState and useFormStatus hooks from React in order to create comments, and the comments are progressively enhanced, meaning you can disable JavaScript and still create comments. So effectively everything is running on the server. The edit button doesn't work because we need to use React State for that, but I can show you now. I'll show you how this works. So we just go to settings and we disable JavaScript. I can refresh this page. There we go. I'm signed in at the moment. Just a quick FYI, this sign in and sign out functionality is with NextAuth, and I haven't created that in this video. In another video I did that. Please check that out. I'll leave the link below. Here is a comment. And as you can see, JavaScript is disabled. Let's see what happens. There we go. So it's posted the comment. I can even upvote, downvote, and I can even delete them. So now if I enable JavaScript, I can just refresh, test this comment. You can see JavaScript's enabled. It gives you that little animation with the button. And also we can delete, we can edit the comments. If I edit this and just put this is an edited comment. Update, and there we go. See, this is all working, the voting. So yeah, that's what we'll learn today, is how to implement this in React and Next.js using the new hooks that React gives you. Let's get into it. I'll start by signing out, and I'll just make sure we signed out. And you can see here we've got this sign in component. Effectively what that does is send you a magic link. I can open up my email, click the link in the email, and it will sign me in. And that's all part of NextAuth. Let's start by taking a look at the code. So we've got this app directory, and we have our components directory, our lib, and our Prisma. So our Prisma schema it's got a session, it's got a user, it's got a verification token. All of these are necessary in order for us to sign in using sessions. As I said, you can check out the other video that I did on this. It is on my YouTube channel, and I'll leave a link below. And then we've got our comments. So as you saw before, we've got comments with content, score, a user, and a create out, update out. Very basic, but this just helps present to you how the useFormState and useFormStatus hooks work. So we've got this. We have our auth.js, which is our NextAuth setup and configuration, and we have a few other things like class names, our database client for querying the database, and then our components. So we've got our button, icons, input, labels, and basic UI. We have a header, a provider, and sign in. These are all for signing in, and we'll be using these components throughout the project. We've got a not found page, a standard page which is currently empty, which is what we're going to be filling out, and then our layout as per the app router in Next.js. Our API, which is required for NextAuth, and then our actions. So our actions are what queries the database and creates, updates, and deletes the comments. So let's get started. In our page, we have an empty page, and what we'll be doing is filling this out. We want to start by getting the session. We do const session equals get server session, and we pass in the options. The get server session is something provided by NextAuth, and then the options I showed you earlier. So now that we've got our session, we can start by querying the database for comments. So let's do equals await db.comment.findMany, and then we want to return comments with order by created at descending, and we want to include the user in there. Now we want to start filling out the main page. We'll do this first by creating a section, and the section will have an add comment form, and then we want to check if there are some comments. Comments.length is more than one, return comments, or return null. Cool. So now we can start building out our comment list by giving it a title, comments. We can do last name equals font, semi-bold, text, Excel. Now we want to map over our comments. So we can do comments.map, create an article with a key comment. We can get rid of this. And then we want to put in our comment card. Comment card goes here. Now we'll give this section some styling. Last name equals my4, p4, rounded, lg, and shadow md. Cool. The other thing we would like to do is to hide the add comment form when the user is signed in. We'll do that by adding cn no session hidden. Excellent. So now we just have to create the add comment form and the comment card here. So let's start by building this component. Add a new component. We want to make this use client because we are going to be using the hooks from React, which are client-side hooks. Start by importing Prisma, and we'll also need to use state from React. That's a const. So let's just do RAFC comment card, export default comment card. So now let's see how that looks. Okay, so we've got our comment card. Okay, let's start. Cool, we've got 3 comment cards because we have 3 comments in the database. Okay, cool. We have this comment card. Now, what we need to do is we need to pass in the user's email. So let's go const user email equals session.user.email. We need to await the session. We've got user email equals user email, and we also need to pass in the comment. And what we'll do is we'll add some props here. Const user email comment props. Okay, and comment card props. Type card props equals user email string, and then we want the comment, which is, there we go, we need this prisma.get payload. This is a nice TypeScript feature offered by Prisma that allows you to add the select properties just like we did here. Include user true. We can do the same thing here, so we've got all the types for those down the child component hierarchy. Cool, so now if I check, I've got comment.user. There we go. All right, next thing we need to do is we need to add a const edit form open and toggle edit form open equals useState false. Now we need to create a function for opening the edit form. Let's do toggle edit form equals. There we go. We need a voting component, so vote component can go here. And then we want to create the rest of our component. Div last name equals flex call w full h full UI 3 items stretch. Now we want to create a form, and forms are going to be crucial when using useFormState and useFormStatus. So create a form. We don't need to create an action in this form. We can actually create the action in the buttons, which I'll show you a bit later. Give this some styling. And then we want to create our comment component. So let's do comment and just comment that out for now. Underneath our form, we are going to create an edit form. So div and then edit form. What we'll need to do is we'll need to use edit form, open edit form, otherwise return null. Just leave this as a div for now. Let's also add some styling here. Cool. Let's begin creating our comment component. Comment.tsx. Start by passing in some props. So comment props equals comment, and we can get that from Prisma schema there. This is actually going to be a bit of prop drilling for you. We also want the current user email. We will also need to pass in the toggle, what was that? Toggle edit form open. But no, actually we just want the toggle edit form function, which can just be like that. And we will also need the show edit form boolean. Cool. So we've got our props there. Let's add in the comment component, pass in the comment, the current user email, the toggle edit form, and the edit form open. Cool. So let's continue building out this comment component. We'll start by extracting the props from there. And now let's start by adding state form action, and then we can use form states. This is the useFormState hook from React DOM. In order to get this, you'll need to be on the experimental version of React.js. So as you can see here in our package JSON, we have React and React DOM experimental. To install that, what you can do is run install React at experimental like that, and the same with React DOM at experimental, and that will install it for you. Cool. So we've got useFormState hook. We need an action and we need some initial state. So let's start by building out the initial state. We're going to have a message. Now the initial state will give you an error. If you pass in the initial state into this hook, it will give you an error if you are not returning the correct props from the action. Let's give this a message, and we also want the comment ID. Why do we want the comment ID? Because when we edit it or we delete it, it's always the correct comment ID, because what this does is it takes in the initial state into this hook here, into this hook, and then it returns the new state. So let's take a look at our actions. We've got add comment schema and add comment action. We have our edit comment schema and our edit comment action, and we have a delete comment schema and a delete comment action, and then we've got our vote action as well. So this particular action we want to pass in is actually the delete comment action, and then we want our initial state to go in after that. So what I said before about this initial state variable, if I just delete this, you'll see it's giving me an error, and that is because when I go into this action, you can see what we're doing is we are first of all parsing the form data from the action. Then we're getting the ID and we're deleting it from the Postgres database using Prisma, and then we're returning the message. And so we're passing in an ID, and then we're passing in, we don't even need to pass in this ID actually. We just need to pass in the message. Message, empty string. We can get rid of this because we're not using the current state here. Or actually, this can be renamed to previous state. Previous state. So yeah, back to our delete comment action. We are parsing the data from form data using the ZFD package, which is useFormState, and we're effectively passing in the ID via a hidden input, and we're getting that from the data. So as you can see here, we're parsing it, that has an ID, we're getting the ID, and we're deleting it based on that ID. Then we're revalidating the path and returning a message that we can use if we need to for error messages. So we've got this. In this case, we do not actually need to use the state, so I will just put that as an underscore here. Let's start building out the components. So class name equals flex call, and then w4. Now, another thing we want to do is to be able to show some loading state, and the way we do that is we do it by using the const pending equals useFormStatus, like that. This must be in a component that is within the body of a form. As you can see, we've got our form here, and then in this component, a child component of the form, we're using the useFormStatus, and we have to do that. That's the only way you can do it. For example, if we were to bring this out here, put it into there, this would always be false. You can't take it outside of the form body. Just that's a little gotcha. So what we want to do is we want to show like a loading spinner when we delete the comment. So I'm going to put pending icons.spinner. I want to show the spinner icon class name. Otherwise, we want to show the comment itself. So let's do div class name equals flex justify tween. We're going to show the username here. Now, I've not actually got a username in the database since we have just the email address, but what we can do is we can do this. comment.user.email.substring 0 comment.user.email.index of @ So that basically cuts off anything after the @ symbol or from the @ symbol onwards from their email, so you just get the first part. Obviously, in production or in a real environment, you would not do this because you could have lots of duplicates. But for the purposes of this video, quick and easy way to do it. Create another component, flex items center gap to justify center span. We're going to use the format function from date fns to show the date that the comment was created. Do comment.created at MMMBOYYYYHMMA. So that will show the month, the day, the year, and the time. Now we want a conditional check for whether or not the currently logged in user is the commenter, so we can do this. And remember earlier I said we're going to pass in the ID via the form into here, the form data, and we're going to extract the ID. Well, we're going to do that by passing it in as a hidden input value. Value equals comment.id, and we need to give this a name as well. So that will allow the useForm data to extract and parse the ID like from here, because we've given it a name. Now we just want to create a button, and in that button we are going to add a trash icon, icons.delete. There we go. This is going to be a form action, and the form action is going to be the one we defined earlier. So you can see here we're using form action, which is something that's on a HTML button. And so yeah, that's what we're getting from here. That is the action. We're passing it to the button here. I'm going to copy this button because we also want to allow the user to edit. This action instead is going to be an on click, and it's going to take in the toggle edit form. And we're actually going to check if the form is open. And once the form is open, show an X, otherwise an edit button. Finally, we are going to add the content. So class name, and we want to check if the form is being edited. We want to hide this, and that will contain the comment.content. All right, so we've got our comment form. We have our user email, which is currently optionally show a string like that. Let's just check comments.length. Cool, let's check. There we go. So you can see that the voting things aren't showing, and the icons for the edit are also not showing. So let's just debug that. That will be because I'm not logged in. So let me just log in quickly. Cool, there we go. You can see we've got our trash icon and our edit. And as you can see, the edit doesn't actually do anything at the moment because we need to actually add this to here. So we've got that. I can delete it. There we go, it's gone. So the next logical step is to create the edit form. So let's do that. We will do components, edit form.tsx. Let's start by passing in some props, edit form props. We will need the toggle edit form and the comment. And once again, we can get this from here. Cool. So now we've got our props, edit form props. We can extract the props from this. Okay, so same as before, we need to add a const state form action equals, there we go. And we need to import useFormState, import our action, and the initial state should be const initial state equals success, false, ID, comment.id, and a message. So we've got our initial state. Let's take a look at the edit comment action. So what we're doing again is we're parsing some form data and we're extracting the content from here so we can edit, we can effectively update the comment in the database with the new content. And then we are passing in an ID as state. So this initial state, we've got this ID passing into here, and then it allows us to access this previous state. The reason we need to do this is because there is going to be a case where you revalidate the path and this here would not update effectively. So you would have the same state in the next request. So what we're doing is we're passing back the ID, which allows us to update this initial state, or at least this state. So in here, we're getting some new state, and the next comment is able to be edited. Actually, I think in this particular case, we could just pass in the ID via the form data. So actually, let's try that, data.id. Let's start building out our component. I want to start with a form, give this a class name of flex call, and here we're going to add an action, which is the form action. Now we want a text area, call this content. We're going to have a default value because we want to show the content of the comment that currently exists on the initial open of the form, and we want to give it a class name, order rounded MD 3. We can just close that off. We also want a message to show that we have updated it successfully. Do aria live equals light role equals status, and then we will pass in the state.message. So now we need a button to submit the form. And as I mentioned to you earlier, if you want to use the pending status of the useFormStatus hook, you need to have it within a component within the body of the form. So we're going to create update button, and we can just add that up here. BG Gray 400. That gives us the ability to show a kind of disabled look on the button when we disable it. And what we're going to do is we're going to use our button here. We can put disabled equals pending and aria disabled equals pending. And we'll want to make sure this is type equals submit because we are submitting a form here. Cool, that looks pretty good to me. Shall we take a look at how that is? Yes, we were going to first of all put in an empty input here, input hidden, or a hidden input with a name of ID and a value of comment.id. That means we do not have to pass it here. We will in the other form have to pass in the ID as state, but for now we can pass it in to the form body. So let's take a look. We've got content and we need an ID which we can use from delete comment schema. Cool. Now let's take a look, see if this works. So I'm signed in. That leads us to our next problem, which is we need to be able to add the comment. So let's start doing that. First of all, we'll pass in the edit form, and we need to pass in, what were they? Toggle edit form and comment. Comment equals comment. Toggle edit form equals toggle edit form. So that is that. And the comment. Cool. Passed in those. Got our update comment button. We have our pending status, which is within a component within the form. And we've got our toggle edit form here. Create the use effect that basically closes it on the success of the form. So let's do state. When the state changes, we want to check if state.success toggle edit form. There we go. So when we click update, it will return from the edit comment action a success is true. We do not need to return the ID, and there we go. So what we're doing in the action is parsing the ID and the content. We're updating the content using the ID or the database query, and then we're revalidating the path and sending back a success message and a success is true Boolean. Then in the success true, we toggle the edit form as to close it. Cool. The next stage is to create the add form component, and we can do that here. Before I forget, mark the edit form as use client, since we are using hooks, and state use client, and same goes for this one, use client. Okay, let's start. We need the state form action equals use form state. We want to add the add comment action, some initial state. That initial state is going to have a message, initial state equals message, and then we want to create our form. So let's first create add comment. So let's create our form. Form is going to have a class name, just to get rid of that. And our action is going to be the form action. Inside this form, we'll have a div class name equals. In here, we'll have a text area. Name is going to be comment, also going to be required. Placeholder will be like your comment here. Class name equals. And we also want to show a message. So let's do that. What's going on here? What is going on? Prettier has stopped working. We're getting a loading error. Anyway, do live equals live role equals status state.message. And once again, we need to add button. Add this button, const add button equals return. We'll return a button. The type submit. There we go. Just get some. Yeah, that'll do. So we want to do add comment. Now we need to get the const pending equals useFormStatus. We can do disabled equals pending. Aria disabled equals pending. Change this to post comment. Oh, we've got our add button. Let's just see how that's looking. Of course, we need to add it to here. Add comment form. What do we need to pass into comment form? We don't need to pass anything in there. All right, let's take a look. Okay, nice. It's there. Maybe give some padding on here. Got a width on here. Get rid of that. Cool. So we've got our add comment form. We've got our add comment action, so that we've got our input and everything. Our add comment action, that takes in the comment. We parse it from the form data. As you can see here, we've got this, its name is comment. We've got this form, and so we're extracting the content from the text area, which is the field comment in form data. And you can see here, we're validating it with 10 characters. And then we're checking if the user is logged in, because we need to create the comment and connect the user via their email. We obviously add the score as 0 and we create the comment using Prisma. We revalidate the path and we send back a message. So let's check if this works. There we go. We've got back the message and we can edit. Oh, looks like there is something going on with the editing, which I believe. So we've got toggle edit form. Where is this also being used? There we go. So it is type equals button. There we go. So it was simply the fact that this was a submit and it was immediately submitting when it opened, which is crazy. Let's just check, see if these comments are working. Cool. So let's delete that. We've got comments being added successfully. We have our edit component, which we can just maybe put this comment as being edited. There we go. Refresh that and maybe put some padding on this update comment. Well, that actually looks better. Cool. So let's do that. Nice. And we can edit this one. And we can delete all 3 of them. You can see there's a little pending spinner there. So now let's just add the vote components. Comment vote.tsx. So we need to add vote props equals ID number. We do not need this. We just need to extract the ID and the votes, and we need to do const state form action equals useFormStatus, and we're going to have the initial state, which is const initial state equals message ID and votes. So that initial state we can pass into here, and then we've got this action. Cool. Let's see what's going on here. We're getting an error. So you can see this action, we take in some form data and we get the action from it. The action is going to be either increment or decrement. And so we have if no action is provided. If prev state votes is less than 0 or equal to 0, we do not allow the decrementing of the votes. So we only allow increments above 0. And we've got our comment. We update our comment based on the previous state ID, and we update the score. As you can see, we're taking the action, which, as I said before, is going to be either increment or decrement. Now we could do some Zod validation around that, where it's, well, in fact, we probably should. So const vote schema, and then we've got ID. Actually, we're passing in the ID. There we go. This is what we want. Zod.tft.text.enum. Yeah, so we want, it's an enum of increment or decrement. So we can do const data equals vote schema dot parse form data. And now we will have an action which is increment or decrement. Get rid of this. We can take data.action and data.action.string. Now, because we've added that, we also need to, because basically this is going to validate whether or not the action is one of increment or decrement. Wonder if we can just do this. Yeah. And then, so it's going to check if it's one or the other. If it fails, we need to basically run some validation or run some, it'll end up in here and it will give us an error. We need to check the correct error. So if it's a Zod error, validation error, if it's a Prisma error, then we return the Prisma, and then we can return what we got here, votes and ID. So we can do pre-state ID and then just votes, which would be, let's say, vote schema, we can do pre-state.votes. All right. So now we check what's going on here. Expected, or if we're not, it's the wrong hook. So cool. We've got our state, which is one of these. For some reason, we have success being passed back, but do we need that? No. Do this. Cool. So yeah, we check if is less than 0 or equal to 0 if it has an action of decrement, which we do not need this to string anymore because it already knows that it's a string. And we're using Prisma here. So if we look into Prisma, we check update args, we check data. You can see the score here has these various methods: set, increment, decrement, and so we're using these two, and we're getting that from the action. And then we're doing one, revalidating the path and returning everything. And you can see we're actually returning the updated vote score and the ID. Let's continue building out the component. We're actually going to have two forms. So one for increment, one for decrement, and then this can just be a span. This is going to show the state.votes, and so each time we increment or decrement, we update the state basically. So we're going to have an input that is going to be hidden, name is going to be action, value is going to be increment, and the same goes for this. Now we just want a button with a form action, and the form action is going to be that. And so we want to just repeat this here. Basically everything else is going to be the same. Like equals variant equals ghost, class name equals px here. And actually we do not want to just make it a button like that. We need to have an icon in here. So icons dot minus class name like that. This is going to be plus. You'll see I've actually created this previously, which is a way of using the Lucid React icons that I find really nice and easy to use. So yeah, we've got this. That should technically be it. Let's take a look. We need to actually import that. So we're going to use votes equals comment.score. We need ID, comment.id. All right, cool. Let's try now. Boom, there we go. And it works. So yeah, let's just double check that this all works with JavaScript disabled. So now JavaScript is disabled. Let's check. Yep. Obviously, posting a comment, deleting one. Obviously, editing will not work because we need to be able to use React State, which is JavaScript. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope that was a nice little introduction for you to useFormState and useFormStatus. And I'm sure they're going to be used a lot more once Next.js has general availability for them and you can use them in production. But for now, they're in experimental stage. So yeah, let's just double check that this edit works. Click edit. Yeah, this is an edited comment. Update. Yeah, so that still works. We're getting some errors here. There is an error hydrating. Not sure what's going on there. Okay, that is pretty much it. If I sign out, here we go, can't edit. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. If you'd like anything else similar to this, or if you have any feedback or suggestions, please let me know what kind of videos and content you'd be into. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and also subscribe if you're interested in seeing more content like this. I'll be releasing more videos in the near future. And yeah, have a great day and thank you for watching.